What's up, everybody, and welcome to the J and K Show. I'm your host, J Rob, and I'm joined alongside by my brother K. What's good, bro?
Yo, what's good, man?
I'm good. It's too damn cold out for May.
Yeah,
That's not good.
no, that's not good. I feel like I want my money back, man.
I know what I'm saying?
I got ripped off. Right.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So it's all good though. But we gonna get to the stories of the week as we always rock out.
Right.
We got some hot stories to cover. We're gonna get your take, which is always the wrong take, and my take, which is the right take. Well, we're gonna debate it, and we gotta get Doc in here too to weigh in. So, there's an interesting story that I saw this week, and I want to get into a serious conversation about because I think this is a very important topic.
Right.
Education is for the children. We're going to talk about the children today, okay? And is education still important? I think it is. Some people don't. This is all stemming from recent comments that Kourtney Kardashian made on her sister Khloe's podcast. And she seems to think that the education system today is outdated. And she doesn't feel that schooling and education or sending children to school is important anymore. She feels like it's outdated. It doesn't make any sense. She doesn't understand. Now, she's in for homeschooling, but the traditional way of when you and I went to school back in the dinosaur ages, it's done. It serves no purpose. Now, she's been getting a little flack online saying, people need to go to school and children need to go to school. That's important. Keep the traditional ways up and stuff like that. But she doesn't feel like it serves its purpose anymore. So I want to get your take, Kay, on do you think that it still serves a purpose, or do you feel like it's outdated to send our children who needs an education and a proper one?
Well,
do you still think it's important today or not?
Yeah, I think there's a sweet spot in between both of those, right? Mm-hmm. So no argument for me that there's probably time to kind of update the way that children learn and how we're teaching them. At the same time, I don't think we should get rid of it altogether. Mm-hmm. This, to me, also feels like another one of those opportunities for the elite to be totally tone deaf, right?
Is that what you're seeing here?
Well, yeah, I am seeing that. You've got someone with tremendous amount of resources that can maybe homeschool, that can sit at home, their children be at home and still get an incredibly good education, versus the parents that have to work, where you have those latchkey kids who are coming home to an empty place because they're in school all day. I think we just kind of forget all of that. So I don't think you get rid of all the school systems, but I think there's probably an opportunity to update what we learn, how we learn. We see some of that, right? Mm-hmm. With kids and the way they learn math versus how we did it. Children don't do penmanship anymore, right? Mm-hmm. They're not being taught penmanship.
Right. So
certainly the curriculum has changed. But the notion that you're going to get rid of all of it, I mean, stop it. And then finally, the last thing, if you are a Kardashian, and I'm not really trying to take a shot because I like the Kardashians.
Yeah.
Unlike the way a lot of folks...
Great business minds.
Unlike the way a lot of folks feel about them.
Yeah.
But their life would suggest that they would say some shit like this.
Okay.
Right? You know what I mean?
Right.
They've really made an industry out of nothing, which didn't take any education, which didn't take any formal training, which didn't take anything other than saying, hey, I'm here. So if you've come up that way and you're looking at the world through that lens, yeah, I guess it does make sense to you to say, well, why are we even talking about schools? Let's get rid of schools. I didn't need it, right? But the thing about it is, that is such a small, tiny little microcosm of how the world works for a very small group of people. Mm-hmm. The masses of us need school. It's useful. It should be there. But I do think with that being said, we should take a closer look on how we teach our children.
Yeah, and listen, they came up, as far as I know, going to school. So it is interesting how she's seeing that today, because I don't believe she was homeschooled. She went to school and they got a good education. I could see, to your point, there are some positives to homeschooling, right? So she's not necessarily that she's saying that she doesn't believe in schooling anymore. She just doesn't believe in sending kids to school, like, per se. Now, I could see, as we all know, and I'm always complaining about this gun violence and all of that, you sending your children today to school today in 2025, and you're losing your children. Your children are dying at the hands of gun violence, which is ridiculous, which is never, ever going to end. So to that point, I could see where the parents of today want to keep their children safe and just damn alive, right? Can they be homeschooled? Yeah. Yeah, they can. I just don't know I don't know. Can you just homeschool your children? I believe that there's courses that you have to take to be able to homeschool your children. It's a lot of work you have to do. Now, maybe with the Kardashians, obviously, money is not an issue, right? So they can hire all these homeschool. Now, I don't know if Kourtney was saying that she herself would do the homeschooling of her children, or she think that's the best if she would do it, or if they would just hire a teacher. She's probably just talking about hiring a teacher to come in and do that. And honestly, I think that's actually way safer. If she hires a qualified person, if all parents hired a qualified person to come in and teach them, their children, the academics and education, I could see how that is a good thing, especially versus whether they go to school and they don't end up coming home because they got shot and they lost their life. That's a possibility. It's a reality today. So I could see that's a very positive thing.
So you've kind of said something that makes me look like the bad guy to counter that. Of course, Jay. Of course you would rather have the safety of your loved one versus, at home going through school versus going to school or going anywhere for that matter and regretfully being unalived while at school. Mm-hmm. However, it's interesting that you would take you would take an incident that is so rare, thank heavens, and so far few in between, by the percentages. Excuse me.
Okay, because that happens a lot.
Excuse me. Mm-hmm. Based off the percentages, man, there are millions of children going to school every single day. There are 1 million kids in the public school system in just New York City alone. Mm-hmm. And that's just one city in one state. And so the idea of, and it's a tragedy no matter when it happened, if just one child that happens to, mm-hmm. right? But the idea of now, in my opinion, mm-hmm. changing the entire system to where there's schooling is occurring in the home on the off chance that some random bad actor may do something. To me, it's beyond even comprehension. I think what we do in terms of fortifying our schools and putting children in safer situations and how we react to this crisis training, or crisis management, is the key. Not to remove children from school and now put them at home. That to me sounds like an overcorrection, and just sounds asinine. But I'm the one thing I will say though. But I'm not surprised that you feel that way, quite honestly, about school overall. Just because schools have a tremendously bad rap, and some of it is justifiable with some of the union contracts where you have underperforming teachers that you cannot get out of the system, where the Department of Education on the federal level, people still wonder where all the money goes. They're not impacting policy down at the state level. So it's, what is this even here for? So from that standpoint, I agree. I quite honestly thought you were going to go there more so than what the path that you took. So I do agree that there's some changes need to be done, and therefore I do agree with the Kardashians, with Kourtney, that something should be done. But I think the idea of taking all the children out of schools and teaching them at home, I think that's just an overcorrection.
Right. So you don't believe? Yeah. No. To your point, it's right too, because there's a lot of teachers that are in school too. Today, they're not qualified. They really don't care that much. They're not getting the best education that they would at home. Well, whether they're being homeschooled by the parent or by someone that they bring in, a teacher and educate. I think I've just seen so many school shootings, and it's sad. So I just brought that up in that case. But also, I see the point where it's just you might get better education. I know when I was in smaller classes, and when I went to my 2-year, let's say even College of State, when it was a smaller school, you get more. I think you get more attention when you're in a smaller school, and when you're at home, you get the best of attention. You see a lot of these celebrities out there that was homeschooled, and you always see the reports that they was a straight A student, and a lot of times I question myself. Were they really straight A students? I mean, you hear that all the time, how these celebrity kids are straight A students and they were homeschooled. And maybe it's true, because I do see the advantages of, schooling them at home because of that. The only pushback I would say on the other side is, you have to be able to interact and intermingle with people in general. I feel if you're homeschooled, you're just stuck in the house with your siblings, maybe your parent, or just the home teacher, and you're not really, meshing with society and intermingling and commingling with different children. And I think that's very important, and I think that's something that you would lose if you just did the homeschooling,
Yeah. And the other thing I would say, I think society had a sample of that during COVID.
Yeah.
When schools were closed and all of these children were home, and it was trying to do this distance learning.
Yeah.
It was an absolute failure, colossal failure. Parents were ready to set their children ablaze. You hear me?
Right.
It just, there were tons of memes and funny videos and things where, so for one, what we all realized and recognized that children just act different at home versus when they're in school.
Oh, yeah. Right.
It's a totally different experience. And it makes sense, because even adults working from home versus going into an office, you have to have a different level of discipline.
You do.
Right? To work at home, right? Because before you know it, you're sitting there still looking at highlights from SportsCenter. It's 10:30. You're supposed to start at 10 o'clock.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, let me get to work.
Yes.
You run over, grab your mouse, move it on your keypad a little bit just so they see that you're in green stat. Right. All kind of stuff. So if an adult is struggling with that, you can't knock a small child.
True.
Right? So I think we did have a glimpse of that, and I think I speak for parents all over the world. They're like, hell no, I don't want to go back to those days.
Oh, no way.
That homeschooling, send their little butts to school, man.
Right. But to your point, you're right. Even bringing up COVID, that's another advantage of them being homeschooled at home. They don't got to go up into that school and bring back all that COVID, cough, flu, influenza.
But it ain't enough to close the school, man.
Nah. She's not talking about closing the school. She just thinks it's outdated sending them to school. And since you and I are not parents, the only parent in this room, I'd like to get Doc's take on it. What do you think about children and whether you think that they should be sent to school versus, or thinking that's outdated versus homeschooling them now? What's your take on it as being the only parent here?
They gotta go.
They
have to go in. I say that to say, because when they were home, when I had to do some of their, say, math, the way I learned and what they were learning was different. So I had to Google everything to even help them do their math homework. So the teacher was way more equipped to do that than I was. So just on that alone, I say they got to go into school. I like Kay said, I wouldn't say cut it out altogether, but there definitely needs to be some revamping on how they learn. But no, they can't stay home.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you 100% because that's it. I remember when my parents were trying to, because my parents from Kingston, Jamaica, and I remember they was trying to, I got my lessons taken home, and my teachers was saying, well, you got to do the math problems this way. And my parents was looking at my homework like, what in the hell is this shit? I'm like, I don't know what they're teaching me because I don't know what. And I kind of felt bad for them, and they felt bad for me because the teachers were teaching me this certain way. They knew it this certain way. And then we was all at a loss. It was really crazy.
Right.
So, hey, we'll see what it is. But I do think that money can make you make different decisions in another way. If you have all that money, homeschooling is a little bit easier because you have people on staff. You could bring it in, train and all that stuff versus, people who don't have money, like I do. And a lot of us, we don't have that kind of money. We got to send them to school or the time.
Here we go. Always looking for an opportunity.
It's a money thing. A lot of us.
Not for you.
Well, I can't. Well, not for you. Can't talk about
man.
you. But I'm just saying in general that's how it is. And to Doc's point, yeah, send their asses to school.
Copy that.